And we are live. Alafia, greetings, and Hotep. Got that upside down. Alafia, greetings, and Hotep. Thank you so much for joining me on this evening's occasion. This is our regular Sunday session. I would like to say Habar Ghani to each and every one of you. I hope it's not too dark in here. Trying to get the light adjusted here. So hold tight. Maybe that'll be a little bit more. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to be a part of our session. I am your host for the evening. I am Omiyinka Zanu, coming to get my ears on so I can talk to the audience that is out there on my YouTube. I'm speaking to my Facebook. I'd like to greet everyone with the right hand of fellowship by saying hello to James Powell. Hello to Jeff Kane. Let's see who else is in here. And saying hello to my YouTube listeners. And YouTube listeners, sometimes you used to come in and you would ask questions, but I notice only if I'm doing oracle readings do you come in. But nevertheless, I'd like to welcome each and every one of you. That little introduction was to let you know we're starting on a topic where we are addressing racism. And as you can see, our title out front is Facing the Challenge of the Century, Addressing Racism and Ethnic Division. What is this ethnic division and how did it come about? And how do we plan to address it? Because it certainly has to be addressed along with some other things. We as African Americans, now called Indigenous Aboriginals, are looking for our nationalism and trying to find our heritage and find out what is our heritage and our nationalism. So today we're going to talk a little bit about racism and how do we address it with the diversity of the ethnicity. And we're going to also have a little break in between to address one of the most outstanding books that I've taught people and the Creed people. My family is possibly in the Creed category. I'm learning as much as I can about the various different 7 original tribes or the 7 recognized tribes. And I will be talking to you a little bit about that. Hello, Ben, how are you? Lisa Lyons, how are you? Herman, how are you? Let's see, is there anybody else here? Jeff Kane, did I say hello? And James Powell. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. This is our regular session. House burning along with the water for the libation. And as I told you earlier, it's important for house libation. And here you see the water. Water knows no enemy. It is neutral. And I pour the libation first to my higher self, which is Ola Dulamare, and I say libation. Then I pour libations to Oromala, which is also a person who represents Jesus as Oromala, and we say libation. And the candles are burning to invite the spirit in, as you can see, a little bit of incense burning as well. Now, we like to call on our ancestors today, and we say in the name of our ancestors, and you can call out your loved ones, your deceased loved ones who've made their transition as I pour libation. You can call them out or you can type them on the screen. And I like to call out my loved ones, and then we'll call out our heroes in the name. Call out the name of, and I like to call out my father's spirit, and I say Robert Jenkins, Ashe. I like to call out my Aunt Esselie Pope, Ashe. Mary Lou Hawkins, Ashe. Tommy Pete Harvey, Ashe. Tom Harvey, Ashe. Lucille Day, Ashe. I have to call out my heroes and sheroes. It's very important to call your heroes and sheroes. I call Madam. I called out Dr. Martin Luther King, Ashe. Sweet Coretta King, Ashe. I like to call out the name of Sheikh S. Diop, Ashe. Marcus Garvey, Ashe. I like to call out the name of Maya Angelou, Ashe. I like to call out the name of Abbas Yassin, Ashe. Dr. Ben, Ashe. Dr. John Henry Clark, Ashe. Dr. Carruthers, Ashe. And if you have any names that you would like to call out, you can call them out now at this time, at this part of our ceremony. And we ask a simple prayer that Ifa will mend our broken hearts. We will be able to go into the new year understanding and knowing our heritage and our nationalism, and that we will come on one accord and we will find the proper name for those lost ones, for those lovely ones, for those souls who are yet in the miry clay trying to make it back to Turtle Island. Yes, we've been split up. We've been called many names. We have been beaten. We've been whipped for the work that we've given. We have been degraded, but yet we are on the rise up as Aboriginal, industrious Aboriginals, and illustrious Aboriginals who are also called by the name of African. And let us not ever forget about Mother Africa. She is a part of us, just as the indigenous people are a part of us. We must remember, we must give thanks to our higher self. Our higher self is Ori. And Ori is a God that we've been given personally that sits on our head. By the Ifa faith, we believe that there is a Trinidad or triad God, meaning not God, the Holy Ghost and Jesus, but Olodumare, Elede, and Olorun. Those are the three triad gods that we look at. They are all one, but they have separate jobs. And we know that Olodumare is combustible fire, and so is Olorun combustible fire. But Ori, which has been placed on our head, which represents combustible fire that has been clothed in matter, so we can embrace Ori. We have our very own personal God. That is why God is said to never be able to leave us nor forsaken us, because that God sits on our head. This is according to the traditional African faith. And we know that God has many essence. And I taught you about the Orishas. And the Orishas represents the essence of God. Last week I showed you the 7 consecrated beads that I wore around my neck. Those beads represent the Ishun twins we talked about. We talked about Shango, the thunder god. We talked about Yamenye, the nurturing mother. Ishun, the mother of the ocean. We talked about also Shango and Obatala, the father of all of the Orishas, who wears white. Now, I can't begin to teach you a full lesson on Ifa. You must make it up in your heart to attend one of the sessions. There are many sessions online teaching you about the traditional African faith of Ifa. There are many other ones out there, just like the Kemetic teaching. They are, way of life, and we don't call it a religion, but a way of life. And there is also Icon. That is also a traditional way of life. And we have Santeria, which our brothers, the Hispanic, have been protecting our Orishas and covering them so that while we crossed the Atlantic, they protected our Orishas. There are 256 Orisha. There's 400 plus 1 on the right side with 1 more that can be, and there's 200 plus 1 on the left side of the evil. So evil and good exists in duality. There is no devil in this traditional faith. There is no devil, and I repeat, there is good and bad in everything. When you speak of good, you've ordinarily spoken of evil. They exist in duality. So there is no devil running around here with the pitchfork with a red tail waiting to dive in on you. This is a white man's belief. That's why I say we must give back our slave masters' religion. They have been teaching us falsely. There is no devil for us to fight. There is no foe. Who you're fighting is your flesh. Your flesh has enmity with the spirit, and it will continue to fight amongst themselves, but it is not a devil. Hello, Eddie. Hello, Nathaniel. Thank you for joining us. We've just done our libation. This area to sanctify this area, the separate thing, and in this area it's protected. You can find protection in Ifa. Ifa holds protection, a ritual on a daily basis, and prayers that you must pray. Around you, them here to make us stronger and to ask them favors to open up the way for us so it's easy for us to move about. And we ask also for protection around our household and our loved ones and our children. Today, I will say a simple prayer for the household for protections and for abundance. We know that the holiday is coming up on us. People feel the worst during the holidays when they don't have the financial gain to purchase things for their loved ones to show their faithfulness. Well, you don't have to show your faithfulness through material gain, and you certainly don't know how much you love them. Is you can make individual personalized gifts for those loved ones, and you can tell them on to love them on or not just during holidays. We must remember, we must teach the family so that the family will stay strong. And especially on our, and we must speak on the ills of society. So keep us on a certain beat so that we were all keeping our heads to the sky. Remember I said, keep your head to the sky. Keep your conscience about our arch enemy and to all those to destroy us. You were informative. You had your heads to the ground, hip hoppers, and you had this not frequency. We know we music, and we will catch and we will bring our artists back and clean them up and give them new life and show them a better way and help them to wake up out of the slumber because they have been put and lulled to sleep and made to believe that they can desecrate their women on stage by stripping themselves. Know that they are under the spell. And we know Marvin Gaye brought us a beat that we could all dance to the groove. So that James Brown himself gave you, but rightly guided. And we thank God for the opportunity to come before you unmolested today, to be able to speak out on behalf of nationalizing ourselves and addressing racism in its proper form, and addressing it to the point until we tear down the walls of racism and discrimination, until we is stealing our babies to desecrate that problem. I denounce it in the name of the ancestors that they will not have the opportunity to change the frequency on my airways. Now, this book is very special. Most of you probably know this. I am a folklore, and the way the Choctaws present their life is through storytelling, and the way the Seminoles present their life and Chickasaw is through storytelling as well. When I read this book, it had such meaning for me that I wanted to share it with you. And this is about a young who interacted with and Chickasaw amongst them. Now, people were in Andrew Jackson. You probably heard of him. He was the one that paid off the national debt, they said. But he created a lot of Americans and Native and indigenous people. He forced them off their land, and Andrew Jackson did a lot of dirt to our Native American people and to those indigenous people. And down to the 1,000th generation, I'm sure he's catching what he deserved. He told those people in Mississippi they had to leave, and they went trotting down a trail of tears. He created all kinds of acts and laws that affected us as indigenous people. I would like for you to go out and get these books for your children. I'm not going to go into them today, but from time to time, next time we're together again, I will read the Choctaw Crossing by Chito. I will read that. And as to what I'm talking about written book as it is, and how it's used as an oral book to tell a story. And because it takes a moment for me to get into the story book, oral reading, that's why I said next time we'll read that. I want to keep my mind focused in on the racism topic that we're talking about and what an organization had did to try to change this. This is a project that I was involved in, Facing Racism in a Diverse Nation, in Indiana at the library, where they were addressing all forms of organizations to talk to them about their racism within their corporation. And these were mostly public government organizations. And nobody wanted to admit that they had a problem with racism. My question is, where will this lead to? And how can we help ourselves so that we make sure that we point out the racism in our community? For example, the outcome of the study. What was the study like? Well, the study that went on at the Lake County Library, the actual facilitator at that time, I won't call his name, he became very sick and he had to discontinue the leadership facilitating for us. A lot of strange dialogue was very important. There had to be a lot of dialogue going on and a lot of organizations. And we had to put people together in organized groups. And we had sessions, we had several different sessions where we talked about different topics. And in talking about all these topics, we all talked about where we could do a better job. And we were talking about the post office, the library, and places that we would go publicly where we saw racism manifesting its ugly head, especially in areas such as the post office where they could do little gestures to exemplify racism. And we had to realize in certain climates and locations there was more racism than other places. But the main thing that we had to vow is that we were going to address it, point it out, and help a person to stump it out of their government organization. And you see a lot more racism in government organizational places because they're moving with the feet of government people. And sometimes you're insignificant to them, especially if you go to the courthouse. So these places, thing I'm trying to point out here today is, what do we do about it in our community? How do we act on these things? And do we have committees and organization and actually a mutual position on issues by not siding? But nevertheless, we went through this program a whole year and we watched our facilitator be attacked on every end. Not connected people there in the library, but people in the community. But they must vow a vow to treat every patron with the same amount of respect.